So welcome everybody to our recording for International Women's Day. I'm here today with Ellen Weeks. She's a volunteer with TreeSisters and she's currently volunteering in the Tree Pod and working on reviewing the reforestation projects that come through and are assessed by Lorianne, our reforestation director. Ellen's been with us for over a year as a volunteer now, and in that time I've got to know a little bit more about her. And one of the things that I really wanted to share with you today is Ellen's recent experiences. She has just completed an awesome walk, 33 days of traversing the Camino in Spain. And I wanted to invite her to give us some reflections on how listening to the earth and listening to nature came through that walk, and also her experiences of being a forest bather practitioner, so the Japanese art of forest bathing. Both experiences which I'm sure, Ellen, we would really, really value your insight about and some more understanding. So to start us off, I wanted to ask you, how is listening to the more than human? How is listening to the more than human world different, or is it the same as listening to the human world?
Thank you. So the more than human world is a term I learned while studying forest therapy to become a certified forest therapist. And it's a lovely way of thinking about yourself and nature. And many of us think of ourselves as separate from nature. And, you know, there's humans and then there's natures, but really there's humans and the more than human world. And it's all together. It's equally, it's as important as we are. And that sense of the world, when you step into nature then and listen, really changes your perspective. And so I love that term. And so I've been embracing that term as I go out and spend time intentionally listening. And one of the practices that I picked up as part of my forest therapy training was doing a morning sit spot. And it doesn't have to be morning, but doing a sit spot in nature. And with a tree is my preference. It doesn't have to be a tree though. People do it with a plant. But the idea is that you're in nature and you're sitting and you're listening and you're experiencing. And you are in that process of, let's say, 20, 30 minutes of being very still and quiet, you are noticing and experiencing nature with all of your senses. You might just focus on what you're smelling for a while. You might just focus on what you're hearing. You might spend time in your heart and sense, what am I picking up through my heart at this moment? And so that all, to me, even though there's the hearing sense, the listening is the whole package. It's experiencing in this case, the morning sit spot with all of your senses. And then you might hear things, or you might experience things that you wouldn't normally. You've slowed down, you're in the moment, because it's almost impossible to be in the moment, to not be in the moment when you're using your senses to experience things. So that set of tools, as simple as they sound, it's very profound and has allowed me to experience communications with trees in ways I never dreamed of, you know, quite frankly, before. You hear about people interacting with trees and nature in that way. Just seems so foreign to me, but now that it's happened, it's a comfort and it's a place to go to feel connected again. So
I love that. I love that. So listening it's more than just your sense of hearing. It's listening with all of your senses, and it's listening with it's listening internally. So what you're hearing is in actual sense, in actual way, a sensing of everything around you. Is that what I'm
Yes, that's very much it. Yeah, yeah. So, and it's a practice, and it it involves slowing down. And at least in my American culture, it's that's not what I was trained to do in my 30-year career before, I started focusing more on forest bathing and other experiences. And it's funny how resistant we are to slowing down. We have to be getting somewhere and doing something. But I've found that when I do take the time to get into this space, then I start experiencing or hearing or connecting with the natural world around me in ways that I never had before. And, I'm a big backpacker and a hiker, and I used to like to trail run, and that's all wonderful and soul enriching activity. But to slow down and simply be in a place and experience, you pick up things and that go deeper. So yeah, very important practice for me.
So did you use that whilst you were on the Camino? Were you, because when I was talking to you earlier, you mentioned that you'd spent 33 days, is that right? Yeah, 33 days
Yeah.
walking the trail, and that's a long time to drop into a sense of repetition and stillness and listening. And yeah, I'm just really fascinated to hear how that landed with you. What was your experience of of listening to the land in that moment, in that activity?
Well, the Camino, I walked the Camino Frances, and there's plenty of information out on the internet about that if you're curious. It's 780 kilometers, and most people do it between 30 and 40 days, and so I did it in 33 days. And it is it's an ancient pilgrimage that pilgrims used to walk to, maybe atone for some sin, or connect to God, maybe. And the people walking it today are walking it for all sorts of reasons, but there's a reason, and they're slowing down, and you're simplifying your life to such a point that there's the mind can just really step into a very quiet and calm place. You're simply getting up every morning, you're putting on the same clothes that you wore the day before, you've got what you need on your back, you're walking the same direction, you're walking west towards the west coast of Spain, and you find your meals, you find a place to sleep, and you get up and you do it again. And the first part, that Camino, is very fascinating because it's like something people often equate into thirds, and the first third is the physical, and you're getting used to your body's sort of screaming at you, what are you doing? This is more walking than I've ever done in my life, and it hurts, ouch. And you get through that, and if you stick with it, you get through it. And then you learn to listen to your body again. It's that listening and kind of just being into the experience. The middle section of the Camino is a chance to really still the mind, because you've got the body under control. And hopefully you might have blisters, but at any rate. And it takes place in a very a more calm part of Spain. It's less hilly, a little more flat. People call it the desert or the meseta, but it's not a desert as I think of, but it's very similar terrain. And so your mind slows even more at that point. You're into the rhythm. You're not worried about your physical body, and the scenery is calmer. And so you're just kind of being every day. And it was a lovely, lovely part of the Camino for me. And so then, with your newly tuned and calmed mind and body, the third part of the Camino, the last third, is a lot of people equate to being more spiritual, because you've kind of cleansed a little bit, and you're more in tune and paying attention to what's around you, and receiving from that. So everybody has a different Camino when they walk it, but there's also a sense of community there. That is a beautiful thing that actually takes me back to TreeSisters a little bit, because the people who walk the Camino are from all over the world, and everyone's very is incredibly open to each other and our stories, and we're sharing, and we all know we're struggling with something, or we're working something out over there to just enrich ourselves. And it was so heartening to be around people all, working together in just a very relaxed and natural way. And I just thought it just restored my faith in humanity. And, especially in some of these times where there's a lot of separation going on and different opinions about how the world should be. But, it takes me back to TreeSisters, because it's that it's the sense of the global community, and how what we can do here can affect, much more broadly than, my little house in my town. And how listening and understanding that we're all in this together, and we're all sorting it out, we're all trying to find ways to transition into this next shift that we have before us on this planet. And yeah, so there's it was a beautiful thing, and I keep it close to my heart, and it helps me connect with my fellow humans. So more than the natural world on the Camino, even though the natural world was gorgeous, there was that connection to humanity, which I think the two go hand in hand. I don't think we're going to solve our problems without either side. We have to be together on this. We have to stay connected. We have to listen to each other. We have to respect each other. And the same goes for the more than human world. We have to listen to it and connect to it. And they're a partner, they're part of it. So yeah, so it was, it's a fabulous experience. If any of you are listeners out there, watchers, are thinking about doing it, I can't recommend it enough. And you can do it. And there are ways to do it if you're physically, challenged. There are ways to do it. Like you can ship your backpack ahead. You can skip segments if you're hurting. You just walk your own Camino. So yeah. It was quite an experience.
I really love listening to you relate that, and I get the sense that your listening to nature has helped you listen to humans. It's kind of re-established a connection somehow from, you've taken that practice of listening to the land, and you've applied it to humanity. You've started being able to listen in and explore the humanity of the people, the humans around you. Is that is that the right way to interpret that?
Yeah, I think there's so much there, and it probably in layers I don't even understand, consciously. It's more embodied. And absolutely, I think if I had done the Camino, I don't know, 10 years ago, before having a sitting practice with nature, it would have been different. And I think it's made me a more open and accepting, definitely more accepting. One of the strongest messages I got from sitting with ponderosa pines was an embodied feeling of loving acceptance, and in a way that I had never felt in life before. And if I can take that from the trees and apply it to my fellow humans, I'm doing amazing work. And I don't say that I do it all the time, but I know that was the message. It's a powerful practice. So
a practice is in its very essence something that you redo again and again. I'm always grateful to my teachers when they remind me that a practice is a repetition.
A journey, right? You're never there. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, totally agree.
I'm really interested in the message that you received from the trees, from the pine trees, and it kind of makes me think about one of the key things that TreeSisters talks about, which is the reciprocity to life. And I was just feeling that you were exchanging ideas with the trees at that point. There was an exchange of information, and I'm wondering how that reciprocity kind of has impacted your approach to your life since you've come back, or perhaps in your work with TreeSisters. I'm just thinking about how that might have impacted you.
Yeah, the idea of reciprocity is it was you know, I ever read Robin Wall Kimmerer's book on braiding sweetgrass, and it's powerful in there, and it was a big part of the forest therapy training, and it's something I take to my sit spots and try to take it to the garden when I harvest a leaf of kale. And you know, this idea that first of all, just to pause and think the world is, that more than human world is giving us so much, us humans, so much every day. Every day it is giving us so much. And what can I give back? And sometimes it's totally humbling to me, because I feel like, do I have anything to give back? You know, it's given me so much, and I don't know that I'm doing enough. And you know, so that, speaking of a practice, that is a practice that, you know, the reminding yourself that there is this giving and reciprocity going on, and reminding yourself to think about how to give back. And sometimes it's just gratitude, and sometimes it's slowing down and listening, and sometimes it's mindfulness of your actions. And yeah, I think it's still a concept that I'm deeply learning from. I think I've got a long way to go, to be honest, because was not raised thinking that way. You know, that was not part of my upbringing. So yeah, so and then and in the Camino walk, there's a phrase that you hear, which is the Camino delivers. And you know, if you might need something, maybe you're really hungry and you're craving something, and suddenly it's there, or there's a person who has a piece of equipment that's extra that you broke and they give it to you. Or I mean, there's a lot of giving and receiving in the Camino, and it's a really beautiful part of it. And it just it's I guess I feel like it's more present than you think, but you have to, again, slow down, appreciate it, look for it, and give back. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but
you make perfect sense. And in some ways it brings me back to the beginning when I introduced you and talked about your volunteering with TreeSisters. That's also, you know, a term of giving back. It's a mindset, isn't it? You're donating your time and your intelligence, you're in service to finding ways in which we can go and plant trees in areas which really respect the value of nature. Because TreeSisters puts a lot of emphasis on the way that we assess the way that we plant trees, where we plant them, the human impact, the more than human impact, social, economical, environmental. All of those factors are part of our review process. And I feel that there's some reciprocity there, in that you are donating your time and your skills in order to ensure that everyone who's, you know, creating a donation or sending a donation into TreeSisters just makes really sure that where that money goes to is into a place where hearts and minds have been at play, thinking about how best to use those donations. Really, really profound to hear you speak about your experiences. I'm going to take away two things today. One is about the sit spot. Yeah, the idea, that term I like, the sit spot. I'm going to go and find a sit spot after this interview, and give some thanks to, it's usually my my oak tree, but I might spend some time with the ash tree at the bottom of my garden today. So I will, yeah, use that practice of the sit spot, which is completely accessible to everybody. It's, you know, you don't have to be a forest school practitioner, a forest bathing practitioner. Yeah, you don't have to be walking the Camino in a different land. You can just go into your garden like I'm about to, and really connect, ground into nature through that sit spot space. And the second thing I'm going to take away with me today is that feeling that through connecting to nature, you reconnect into humanity. It was really beautiful to hear you talk about how your experience of the more than human affected the relationship you have with humanity. And yeah, that was really beautiful, and life affirming, and something that, you know, comes from spending time in that slowed down space, which we can all access day or night.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I just want to emphasize it is accessible to everybody. And I didn't think I would be one of those people who could pick up on it, you know, but it's the slowing down and the practice, and finding a place and returning to it. Sometimes returning over and over can be very powerful. So if you have a little place that, you know, nearby park or your backyard, if you have a yard, doesn't have to be the deep wild, you know, just needs to be the more than human world. So yeah.
Love it. Thank you so much, Ellen. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been really, really beautiful to speak with you, to hear about your experiences. And I just really hope that that's inspired you in some way today when you're listening and watching. International Women's Day is about sharing the strength of what us as women can bring to the world. And I think Ellen's just demonstrated that absolutely beautifully, the strength of tuning in and listening to nature, and how that can affect and bring in our humanity for the people on the planet as well as the planet itself. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.